Well, good afternoon as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful afternoon of July 10th, year 2023. Here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course, a huge group of the likes of you out there. Make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access, and rightfully so, as we all, whether we know it or not, directly or indirectly benefit from that concept that preaches for the soft center that can allow us to achieve a wider base through which we can express our thoughts and opinions, and of course perform our form of art into the immediate surface without any delays and obstacles, at least not intentional obstacles. So pretty much public access is taking care of this by way of allowing you the safety zone where you can I think this is actually, oh, that's better. I think that's better, yes. So it's almost like the opportunity to come together with some an ancient form of this past weekend we had a really great opening here at LTV with some great artists, and I think the quality of the interactions that took place here was something that I think, in my opinion, highly recommended to have within any gathering. So I felt like we were very privileged to have each other, the people that attended the show, the people who showed their art, and some, for example, Barbara Maslin was here throughout the opening and was willing to converse and interact and speak with people for hours, and so genuinely done. So you look at artists and how they kind of trying to share their fashion and passion in certain fashion, their passion, and it's just a joyful moment in the sense that we can. So I always like to calculate the distance, and therefore the proximity to a potentially easier solution to delays or some doubts or some obstacles, or just kind of direct and indirect doubt that at first lingers and then suddenly get a hold of a firm hold, and any type of progress that we perform actually disables the ability of that sensation from claiming permanent residency, so to speak, and that spells for us a little more room to operate, and a little less interference that can slow down the process. It's interesting how I always compared quantity with quality, because early on in my process, I was, as I found myself unknowingly implementing my attitude from my business to as a house painter, which I always ended up working fast without compromising the quality, but just kind of working fast because it just made sense to me. The longer I dwell in this job, the less money I'll be making. So it was a no-brainer. So when I was tackled with the issues of creating paintings and painting paintings, it was like that feeling came to me and said, just do the best you can and as fast as you can. Just I started in my late 30s, and I felt like I might never have the chance to clarify what my message is all about, and at least my message, that which is clear enough for people to be able to end up doing something with it. And actually, you know what? I am going to raise this chair here because okay, here we go. Okay. I'm like struggling with this. Actually, I'm not struggling. This is actually just fine. So people approached me a lot in those early years, and always said, where are you rushing to? Where are you rushing to? And I always wanted to understand the nature of this question, like, what is it exactly that you're asking me? I used to say, if I, if there's a particular reason why I paint so many paintings and ending up being very prolific, is it like, so I do, well, obviously immediately I thought that when you kind of rush, and this is what, like, why are you rushing it? And rushing always sounded to me like something negative, like we say you're rushing, that means you're not doing well. That means the quality of whatever it is that you're doing is not going to cut it. It was always, especially if you're starting painter, and then people come and give you the opinions, but with a not a loud voice, but with a harsh sound expression, So you feel like, wait a second, is that what how they say when they say that they don't like something you do, or maybe you need to go and pick up some of the fundamentals and the basics and take it from there and brush up on your education or whatever it is. I tried very hard to understand the nature of it because I really wanted to benefit from it. I never realized that I can have a better teacher than the process itself of exposing myself with the exhibitions to the wide audience. And what do people think? Are you creating when you create? Do you think about the audience out there, the potential viewer, and all these questions I've been asked? And I was like more like, no, I don't. And yes, I do. And yes, I do, of course. And no, of course I don't. So, each one of them is like in two opposites, but so the same. Because it's more like you have an opportunity to watch the greats. There were some painters that long before I knew that I one day going to become one of them. I used to observe him, and he just looked like he can definitely be in more than one place at the same time. And it was in more ways than one, just a pure translation of clean and clear cut ability and goodwill in place and relationships with desires and capitalizing on certain offerings that reality has available for you. Always thinking what it is that I can calmly and comfortably accept from people that when they have to literally something to offer to me, and without thinking too much, finding myself dwelling. Oh my God, the whole idea of sensation of dwelling, that you don't realize that you do it, and then when you realize that you're doing it, you turn out that you find out that you've been doing it for a long, long time. And sometimes, as much as, no matter how you look at it, the makeover is pretty painful. And obviously, by nature, it can be a lot or a little, but it's just there, waiting to be inflicted. And then you can really appreciate it once you start feeling the pain that it could have been. Now you can relate to when people say it could have been worse. Yeah, oh, sure, it could have been worse. And then you feel like a heartburn, like just trying to scare away the potential that will spell harder than this. That's already is. So it's like, wait a second, yeah, maybe I can take it, but why would I want to? Why wouldn't I fight it with every tool I have in my hands in order to make sure that my journey is kind of disturbance-less, just so you can create so much of a basic, tolerable present and presence within the present and present within the presence. And it's just like this wonderful level of partnership and camaraderie mixed together, and so if you're lucky enough to be able to know or to be able to observe the greatest people that can, wow, like when I first watched Kenwood Denard, and he came with Richard T, and I don't even know who was the bass player, and no, Richard T and a singer, and Kenwood Denard on drums, and it was almost it was an experience of something that I was so far away from being ready to encounter it and deal with it. And I forget it confused me with pleasure, I must say. I felt the sensation of pleasure because I felt like long after the performance, I was in company of greats. Like when Richard T with his small keyboards was playing so many notes and so much storytelling, so much easiness, so much profoundness, so much tolerance and consistency that is fully minded of your needs as the listener, as the one who places your presence in front of the performance. Well, it was like this. I was probably 19. I was a soldier, and in one of my leaves, we used to have my Chicoria and Return to Forever, and Weather Report, and Steely Dan, and so many more, and all the jazz, of course, all the traditional, all the way from Duke Ellington through all the wonderful Miles Davis that concluded the ins and out of Charlie Parker and the likes of him, all the way to Michael Brecker and Randy Brecker, when they snatched themselves out of fusion from jazz into a fusion and back to jazz. You can always hear the tradition flavor, but a maintenance of extreme disciplines. And even if you don't know enough to be the judge, or you're doing something wrong, because obviously you're feeling a lot of things, and the music itself will favor you if it will find out that you are a believer. It doesn't have to fight with you or to explain twice, or to there's a feel on its behalf that this is where I want to go. It's the energy calls, And that voice of the energy that's calling is very appealing, very promising, definitely seeking its attention and its presence. So you hang on to the encounter at whichever capacity that it would end up to become is already a lot, a huge amount. So that means you brush against that kind of moment of greatness on the behalf of the other, without even its awareness that indeed you are in the picture even, and is just like changing your life, changing our lives as a society. You know, I don't care to what degree or extent evil was spread in the times of the Holocaust, in the Second World War, and just all this what incredible ignorance of the fact that hundreds and thousands of people are killed every day. But on top of it, there was just a calculated desire to annihilate other people, Jews, homosexuals, gypsies, criminals, the mentally insane, the deficient, disabled individuals, all with an injection to the heart, directly died, dead, gone, goodbye. The concept of being able to kill 10, 20, 50, 60, 70, 100,000 people, you alone as an individual, and knowing indeed that this is how many you killed because he kept a record. So there's there's an incredible ability to inflict pain and tragedy that is initiated by the I don't want to say drama, but the disastrous infliction, all can be dissolved by the performance of you pick up a great, introduce Chopin. Would you outmost a little bit of a knowledge of what classical music is all about, but the full acceptance and capacity to welcome it into your life, and therefore music will favor you because it goes by feeling, not by impression, meaning, to be impressed. Yeah, well, it's very difficult to impress that which invented impression, so, but it's funny how it's impressionism, so, abstract in an abstract in an impressionist fashion, express the process, i.e. expressionism, abstract impression, abstract impression, expressionism. Impressionism, by the very fact of the abstract that is in an encounter with expressionism. I mean, so, you know what, you would think, I thought at first that this is too much, this is too many definitions that are just kind of describing something that can be not only that you need to try to describe it in a more efficient way, you can do without altogether. What a revelation. Serious things that people require a lot of time on behalf of people to kind of deal with it, whether they can call it a ritual or ceremony or whatever it is. Then you realize not this, not that, not that, and not this, not that, not this, not this, not that, not that. Nothing. Just is it is. 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 There's just something like that. So there you can really find the tip of your brush being able to perform, to outdo itself in a way where it will appreciate the spatial, again, going back to the spatial flavor of that approach of yours, that was accepted as a friend, as a sound and a touch that is in the records and in the data info that will speak for you, starting with this medium rare altitude, kind of above the 65% first contact, and it just rises by increments of 5 and 7, and so before you know it, it's 72, 79, 86, whew, and it's just like felt like, okay, now we're going to the next one, increments of 3. 89, 92, 95, and then you stop there comfortably because you just don't want to push it because there's no reason. Going back to basics, because this achievement guarantees you ownership. There's no hesitation whether you should leave if you want to leave, or travel if you want to travel, or visit, or stop, or continue, or accelerate, or slow down, whatever. There's nothing in the world that can make you do anything different than what it is that pretty much you can live with. That which you can live with. It's not even tolerance. It's just like that which you can live with, that your system is telling you in a very foggy, numbing way that it's okay, that it's doing just fine, and that it's telling you, stop bothering me, take a deeper breath so you can actually take every take a longer one. Take long takes, one shot, take a 4-minute one-shot scene frequently. I thought that so speaking of that, because we're saying, so that will be that Chopin, or whomever it is that you as a civilized individual you recollect your respect and appreciation of certain movements and of certain leaders and certain founders that always used to shake you and shake your soul. And even, for the most part, you wouldn't be the person who would understand the musical instrument by way of being able to play it, but understand musical instrument by way another person plays it, in like deeply trained professionals do, while you are actually not. But you become fast enough. And why you become is because you realize it early on, quickly, and you adapt it automatically, immediately, fully, completely, and then suddenly it becomes like, okay, you were like a sergeant. Now you're like getting into the general area. It's just like beefing up there. But this is accompanied by silence, by hushness, by softness, by whispering. And this is the form that is designed to be introduced to itself by its own self, because it wants a reminder of just basic existence, survival, presence, pulse ticking, heart pumping, pulse ticking, circulation, trusting that circulation, that it will supply all the basic stuff in a very basic fashion, and still you'll make it to be 95, for example. It's like, I had a few conversations with people. It's like our youth is being compromised in front of our eyes. I don't know. I was trying to be poetic, so I started the it becoming compromised. The brightness of coherence, the brightness of coherence, and the maintenance, the maintaining that, owning it, with somewhat of a tight grip, strong grip. It's a great feeling. So I think I would want to come to terms with certain things that I will be able to just envision. I remember the most progress I've ever made is because I saw the Kooning, some footage, and I saw Jackson Pollock only because I live in the Springs. My where I live is a couple of miles away from Jackson Pollock and a couple of miles away from de Kooning and many others. But let's just say that you're talking about de Kooning. So the greatest lesson I've ever learned is just by actually, I don't know how. I think with Jackson Pollock it was called a touch of genius or something. De Kooning was just footage, but I got to see him for 3, 4, 5 minutes being in his studio. And I remember that it was just, I was trying to understand what kind of temperature changes taking places on the sole of his feet when he moves throughout the studio with his kind of almost funny, old-fashioned outfit, studio outfit of masters that just had this overall something outfit, and I really managed to zoom in a way that I can really stay together with him after hours. That means they will close the museum. I will still remain with him, walking around, accompanying him, almost like his shadow, with his acknowledgement and approval. There are some painters that when they want to observe, they don't want to observe to estimate where they are and in relationship to where they started early on, and by understanding this very well, then they can really estimate how stage 3 and 4 are going to be, and suddenly there's a meaning, and there's a theme that's been forming just on its own, and you're welcoming it, and you now when you implement the third and the fourth, it's pretty much a beefing up aspect fashion of whatever took place in first and second, and just giving it more definition with more application of with the pigments, with a different mindfulness, and then understanding. And I gathered this from some film that I watched of de Kooning without any sound even. It was just there. And because we have the privilege to know so much about these people, I mean, there's tremendous information about them. So I read enough to know something about de Kooning, something which meant a lot. And Jackson Pollock, reading his autobiographies, both autobiographies, and being able to relate in a sense, understanding naturally what it is that they're talking about and how it is that they feel. What is the nature of their feeling due to their engagement in and within the creative process? The awareness as if you're out of the game, as you are so deeply embedded with the game. And then you know that it's not a game, but it's just you want a game. You want to use the definition game because you want to trick yourself to believe that it is softer than you might understand its destructive potential to be. And then you, of course, the secret of it all is that you are able to implement. You learn something, you learn a lesson, you observe, you learn more, you acquire, you realize that the change should take place, and you realize that you're the one who should imply this change, and you realize that this is something that's going to be done by you, and you realize the significance of the act itself and of the fact that you are going to perform this act. So many things can take place long before you make the first sound of an instrument, or the first brush stroke of a painter over the surface. So I learned from them, and from Jackson Pollock also, to the more he was releasing, the more he was more kind of externalizing his thoughts and his, I thought it was awful that he would that he arrived to the point that he needed to show the world what he's doing. It is the most cruel thing in the world to do to an artist. Well, I understand, that when you become famous, and especially you're talking about the 40s, and you're talking about the style that he introduced to the world. But who wants to disturb the artist, especially if they broke through and introduced us with something a little different, something a little more progressive slash, what's the word? Modern, really modern, really like progress. Really, it's almost like better machinery every day, every year, and every season brings so much promise and brings so much help on many levels: the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, the actual basis upon which you make your decision, because this body can carry the mission. This head can figure what the mission is, and it can gather a plan to send it forth in a way that it must be a winner. It doesn't have to be an incredible, wonderful, out of this world winner, but winner is enough. Winner is winner. Because you know that your ability to implement can take something very average, a winner, very average triumphing, and you can finesse it with your wonderful whatever ingredients and tools to apply the ingredients, to play with the ingredients, whatever, to create from the ingredients. And then you realize that this success is something that came about to this point after such a long journey, only for your own sake, only because you initiated the initial call. Maybe you call for help, but you're actually not calling for help, especially because you don't need help. And if you do need help, it's just the kind of help that we all need all over the world, just little tiny things. And it can be big things, but mostly we need this. It's called camaraderie, it's called interaction, it's called entertainment, it's called interacting. Knowingly, unknowingly, directly, indirectly, you are just like active all the time, and you want to enjoy when eventually you see the wonderful picture that actually tells you, here's the story. Happens to be the story that you already know, but here this is the story in a different light. And then you see yourself and you say, ooh, this person that I know him so well, who is he? This person that I know him so well, who is he? It's like, isn't it interesting? This person that I know so well, I actually, matter of fact, know so well. This is actually me, not me, not me. I know this person so well. Who is he? Okay, so I got the answer, and I take this answer and I adapt it and I accept it and I add it to the deposits, collection, supplies, the magic box, of the moments, the scarce moments to be bailed out, if you know what I mean. The scarce moments to be bailed out, to be able to use in order to be bailed out, because you earned it, because you can pay the ransom, stuff like that. Of course, that will go together with a video game, where you can actually implement realistically diffusion of that which happens to be completely straightforward. That it doesn't matter really. So this, what I just did, about 11 seconds, you write it down because you can write music, You write it and then you read it vertically. You read it vertically. You write it horizontally. You read it vertically. Doesn't matter. What matters is vertically, horizontally, so now I remember when I was growing up in Jerusalem, we were like, just what I just did now, we used to do that for hours on end. We used to try and play solos of all instruments possible, and to make fun, but be serious, because it's all about counting. Oh, what is it? What was it? 17, 12? Over 12? What was it? 13, 11? We were just like so happily engaged in some things, in something that was very, very serious. Very serious. Very serious. I mean, when you see Joe Zawinul in the late 70s in your own country, in concerts that you just like will kill for, you cannot not grow into a world of like solid appreciation that actually makes you feel solid, because you were exposed to this music. It's such a huge privilege, and you let it soak in because you knew nothing but respect and pleasure and acknowledgement and honest and just that, So we used to buy a record that probably they used to release first, all the American outfits, when they released their new records, they used to send the record first throughout Europe, and then they would start the production in the United States. So we probably would have heard that music before an average American in New York, even almost, I dare say. But just to grow up with this, it's like the world is telling you, friggin' hey, man, this is solid. This is promising. This is impressive. You see Omar Hakim on the drums. And you look at him, you see Terry Bozzio on the drums with Frank Zappa. And Vinny Colaiuta with Frank Zappa. And Peter Erskine with Frank Zappa. It's just like insane, sweet, rewarding, wonderful, positive, explosive, out of this world encounter that will always be like that. I went to see these people when they came to my country. When I immigrated to the United States of America, I kept on seeing them here in New York City, all the clubs, all the time. Every bit of money that I had, I used to spend because I wanted to gain proximity to this hope that's called music. It just, even in your imagination, when you imagined which direction are we going to vis-a-vis the arts and the music, you're giving an indication of what are your chances. Not how exactly things will turn out to be, but we'll give you scenarios that actually we can or we cannot handle, which I thought was very sophisticated and very unique to look into the future by saying, well, nothing is definite, but Most probably. I like most probably type of thing, whether it's scientists or doctors or whatever. Most likely. Good enough for me. So you see from the emptiness that you had in your life. I don't care if you lived in any neighborhood in New York City in the 30s or 40s and 50s, or for that sake, you were growing up in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or Haifa up north in those years. It would be the same the same level of ignorance. First of all, America wasn't that everyone was living in America knew exactly what's going on or not. Most people were living in the dark. They didn't know of anything. They didn't know of themselves. I grew up with a society that were enlightened but didn't know of itself. And so suddenly you were introduced with music that is absolutely 10 steps ahead of what it is that you were accustomed to, and you always were considered yourself someone who knows a thing or two about fusion or jazz rock, or the progression of changes and breakthroughs. And suddenly it's just way over the top, way over, blowing the roof and seeking you know shelter in some kind of outer space. And it was right there, staring you in the face. And then at that moment, I always used to realize, whatever it is that I'm going to be left with when this encounter is over, it will be more than I will ever ask for, because it will always be more. Anything will be too much. How great is that? So I took these realizations and I adapted it whenever and wherever I could. Now that's coming back into the era of the year 2000, 2010, 2020. You actually start realizing, okay, now I can I can, if you know what I mean. Now it's the big time. Now now every progress that takes place is 5 times more and faster than you're accustomed to if you ever encountered any successes and breakthroughs and progresses. Suddenly your action, your ability to wheel and deal with your craft and all this becomes real beefy and real, that has to offer to the process in abundance. There was more tools than you know what to do with, more paint than you know what to do with, more pens and pads that you know what to do with, more capacity of storage than you know what to do with, everything. And so every time you touch, every time you engage, every time you show willingness, it really explodes, because the system is so sophisticated. It takes what you do and it's already in the hands of the there, wherever there might be. And so I remember, for example, I don't know, my friend liked some images that I did. This was like 2005. And he took some images of mine. Suddenly I get this email or Facebook of someone from Australia or Ireland or Hawaii telling me, they said, man, that was great. There was this email, this one of the messages from 18 years ago. Thank you, dude. Thank you. That was great. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Whatever it is, it's like, and then you take that photograph, that picture, that one of your paintings, and you take a second look into it, and then and indeed you find things that not that you missed, you never looked for it. So I goes, thank you for saying thank you for making me aware by saying thank you. You're welcome. So now progress is right upon impact. And that right upon impact is like, be careful what you wish for. You wish for all this stuff, it's going to come. And listen, even a positive, good-natured avalanche will crush you and bury you to die. So you got to be careful, and you approach whatever it is and however it is with humility. Which is something that any average person out there knows. That's the better way to initiate and to. So I remember that when I was 18 joining the army, and I was surrounded with my friends that devoted their lives from age 14, 13, 14, right through 5, 6 years, whether through high school, they always were trying to achieve excellence and to practice excellence and to perform and to understand and to write and to invent and to paint and whatever it is, because they knew that what their life spelled, that's what their life was all about. And then because I was watching them very closely, when my time came to join the army, I anticipated the emptiness, because suddenly you cannot play music and you're not your own self and you can't ask the question, and you need to, this is a complete transformation. So I couldn't dread and tolerate the potential pain that I saw coming if I was to think, this is who I am, who I was, who I am, who I will be for the rest of my life. I don't care what kind this. I'm going to always work towards that goal. But rather I said to myself, no, I am not going there. I'm going to join the army, and then I'm going to just say, I'm not going to go there this way. I'm going to go there that way. So that means I took off the robed special uniform, and I put a different uniform, which was not a uniform at all. And I kept on telling myself, I need to say to myself, it's not a big deal. I'm not saying goodbye to anything. I'm just changing gear, and then I'm changing car.